Today, we're going to be talking about leading remote teams and how to motivate them with goal setting. So, come join us today. Oh, it's been an awesome week. I don't know about you, Roxana, but hey, everyone. Hi, I'm Veronica Stewart. I am a agilist, but helping really connect the people side to the processes.
And I'm Roxana Radulescu, from founder of All Personal and also co-host of this amazing game-changing show, on which today we are going to talk about leading remote teams and how you can motivate with goal setting. Like, I love this topic. I absolutely love this topic because we're getting a lot of questions from you, and thank you for that. And by the way, keep them coming. On how can I motivate my team. I have somebody asking just the other day, how can I motivate my lazy team member? And I was wondering, oh wow, that is such a
Lazy. Ooh, that's pretty
lazy.
strong.
That is strong. That is strong. And that absolutely tells us that there's something more in there, right?
What's up,
There's a
Mitch?
lot. Whoa, happy
Yeah, we got
summer
Mitch in the
indeed.
house. Yeah. Yeah, no,
All
I
right.
love this conversation because it's morphed into more of the technical practical of
Yeah.
remote teaming, right? Like what do I do with tools and practices and what might have you? And we're kind of like, we need to talk about the people side. Oh, there she goes with the alarm. Now, you might have to mute this. Now, what I loved this topic because OKRs has been out there for a while, right? And but what anything that really starts to inspire or really change the game on how we approach things when it comes to the people side is really attractive for me personally.
Yeah.
It also is about change and really pushing the envelope compared to when most of the times that we're working on things, it isn't necessarily what we do in Agile, right? It's very output driven. And so anything that has been shifting more in that outcome or really getting us to what we love to say, change the game, I'm all about
Mhm.
that, right? So it's attractive.
Yeah.
Now, in this topic today, as we talk about goal setting and OKRs, it's really about the benefits when it comes to the people side and the challenges. If you're a manager, what do you do?
And that's the thing. What do you do? And what can you do? What are some options? And I wanna, because we have a conversation going on in the chat, and thanks for that, about laziness and how it's either good or bad. And I'm not. I mean, it's. I believe, first of all, that words matter. So the words that you're using are gonna influence the way that you perceive that person as well. So I'm not, in that context, it wasn't necessarily about lazy as good, because it was not helping the team perform and they were constantly behind. So that's why lazy in that context told me that there's some tension in there, and there was an interpersonal conflict that was going on. And that was happening because, mostly, probably one of the reasons can be that people weren't motivated. Where you have people who are underperforming, and where laziness falls into that category, in that particular situation, then you have to ask yourself, especially as a leader, why are they underperforming? What's going on? There has to be a reason there. And then you start with the why, and then you go with, how can I help them perform? How can I, because that's the question about motivation, is that how can I help them perform?
And a lot of
at
times they're
optimal
not
levels.
connected. They're not connected for whatever reason. And I mean,
Yeah.
I love to use the word lazy if I'm just tired and want to relax. Or
Yeah.
when I'm feeling lazy in truth is because I'm
Mhm.
disengaged. Whatever I'm doing is not motivating me by any means. And so the one thing that what I love about goal setting, it's supposed to inspire and naturally motivate because one, it's connecting you to purpose. Now, again,
Mhm.
those of you that are loving OKRs, are they connected to your company's purpose and vision and the mission that it is? If it's not, then you might want to rethink that because originally it was intended to be that, not just a thing that we do. Um,
Yeah.
so and so if we talk about the intention about OKRs and what it created was creating that connection. So we know, and I put an article out today about 41%. Now look at Mitch, you got props there, Mitch. Woo-hoo. 41% of people really wanting to change their jobs, quit,
Mhm.
do something this year. And so there's a variety of reasons why people are rethinking this. And one of them could be the fact that they're not motivated in what they do. They're not feeling connected to what you're doing there at work. And so when we talk about motivation, it's almost like a big nut, but it's very people driven. So we want to talk about OKRs a lot when it comes to strategic strategies and make it all about like strategies and priorities and focus and what might
Mhm.
have you. But there's such another element about it of how do you actually even motivate uh, the workforce or talent. I like to say everything but employee because I believe that employee just says that you are a full-time employee, and I don't believe in that. So any
Yeah.
talent that you have on board in your company, which I think it's important, contract or not, um, that how do you get them to be bought in to even want to deliver to those business strategies, right? Because yes, you're running a business, you're trying to tie it from strategy to execution, but if you're not doing it in a way that's inspiring and connecting the people to really give them their all, you're still missing the boat.
You are, and especially in this kind of context where people, and especially when we talk about generations at work, and that's what you really want to look at that because with millennials, and relating to what Mitch was just saying, that the worst motivator is fear and the best motivator is connection to success. I think that we've discovered that with the millennials and as millennials came into the workforce. Because if you think about it, for boomers and most of the Gen Xers, fear was a strong motivation at work. And that's what the new generations that get into the workplace right now, that's what they're running away from. And that's we know, and we're starting to learn how to motivate people the right way. So we're looking at how they're making an impact, how they can contribute their best. We're looking what we're talking about right now, which we weren't talking about 20 years ago,
Uh-huh.
is helping people bring their best selves at work, which was in no way a conversation in at the board table, right? Like 20, 15 years
No, it's
ago.
all about bottom line results, and people were just
Exactly.
a after effect because they were
So
interchangeable.
absolutely. So when you look at millennials and now Gen Zs coming into the workplace, what they want, number one keyword is purpose. I want to know that what I do matters, and not just for me, not just for this particular organization, but for others as well. I want to know what my purpose is. I want to know how I contribute, how I make an impact. I want to know. I've interviewed Gen Zs, and the question that they were asking me as a potential employer was, what is your organization's purpose? What do you want to achieve? How do you want to influence? What's your big idea? What's your big dream about what you want to achieve? That's what they want. So
Connection. They want
stop
connection beyond
connection.
them.
Exactly. That's where goal setting is super important, because if you
Goal
don't
setting
have
the right
clear
way.
goals, exactly. If you're not aligned, if you don't understand what you're working towards, you're not helping anybody understand what their purpose is and how they can fulfill their mission.
Now, even if we take it down even a level, I'm going to just say more of the pragmatic thinkers when we talk about purpose.
Yeah.
Anybody at a job or what they do in any type of relationship always wants to feel they have some purpose of how they're making an impact towards it. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about this connection about the world, that becomes even a bigger challenge. But even if we take it down to the micro level of, I want to feel fulfilled that I'm making an impact in what I do here at work, because no one wants to sit around and feel like they aren't a contributor. Maybe there are some that, are fine with that, but most will get demotivated after a while, yeah. Right? So let's talk with those groups of people, because those are the people that pretty much you should be worried about right now, because they're probably looking for another job. With the job market now, the ones that are probably more savvy, and this is what I loved about one of the articles that was shared with me, that I shared on LinkedIn, those of you that aren't aware, is that freelancers, for one, are people that are actually have moved from jobs, which a lot of the millennials, and I would say probably the Gen Zs, have the same mentality. Yeah. If you don't give me what I need, I'm going to go find it somewhere else. So they are pretty comfortable leaving a job. It's not a problem for them. And then you have the freelancers. When we actually were in COVID during the pandemic, it was rock and roll with them. They actually knew what to do. They bounced back a lot easier than people that were in jobs that never left a job. And it was like in the article, a deer in headlights. They didn't know what to do. Yeah. And so what has happened now is that rise, and I mentioned it in the article, is millennials is the highest percentage of entrepreneurs. Okay. Yeah. So we have no idea what they're going to decide to do, in truth. Are they going to want to stay in a company and move up? Or are they going to try to start their own business? Or are they going to want to be a freelancer and jump around? Exactly. Or they're going to go after more of the trendy, cool, small businesses and help grow them because they have more of an option to really make a difference in that sector. So when I talk about this 41%, and you look at the percentage of millennials that are out, they pretty much take up the workforce. They're the ones that actually want flexibility. They want choice. So when I talk about choice at workplace, and we go back to the goal setting conversation right now, you are moving in the direction. It's not about the theory that it works or not. It's the fact that you're trying to suffice a need that they're looking for, how to be connected to the work that they do today. And it's a win-win for you as a business, saying, well, how do I connect my business strategies and the things that we're doing to delight our customers with these people that want to be motivated in that work as well, right? How do we kind of bring it all together? So it's not the one and done only solution, but for today's subject, we talked about goal setting because it's one of the things you consider in your toolbox of moving in that direction. Now, you've talked to a lot of leaders about this whole subject of motivation and wanting to be a different kind of leader.
So a different kind of leader. And here's another thing that's that I love about millennial leaders as they grow in this leadership role. And again, just think about it. They're going to grow in these leadership roles, and they're going to lead the Gen Zs and the generations that come afterwards. So it's super important to understand what makes them be motivated and what makes them want to be in a leadership role. Because the problem with millennials in big corporations is that they don't feel they have a voice. They don't feel they can lead the way that they know they can, that they want to change things. That's why they all have this, if you want, the same mantra that they come with. I want to lead different. I want to be a different kind of manager. I don't want to be your regular manager. I don't want to be the manager that people run away from. I want to be that manager and that leader that people want to follow and that people love working with. That's what millennials are all about.
You sound like Simon Sinek.
But like, That's what I've seen. I mean,
There's a direct
it's
correlation here. Like, who's his
it
audience,
is.
right? And
Yeah, we're gonna steal some of his audience, but that's so true. I mean, like it is, and then we're getting into the Gen Zs. We see that they perceive the leader, and I talk about that a lot. They perceive the leader as you can't be their leader unless they perceive you as someone of their own. You
now,
have to be in their group, in their tribe to be
yeah.
able to lead them. So for millennials, the way that they want to live is exactly what we're talking about today. Leadership and motivating people with goal setting, and really, because that helps you.
And it's bilateral goal setting. So typically, a lot of
Exactly.
times, goal setting it falls very less meaningful by the time it gets to the individual, and then when you really
Yeah,
think about these team level, because it's a top-down approach. And so
absolutely.
when we
Yeah.
talk about probably some of the companies that maybe adopted OKRs, here's a couple things that I've talked to a couple people. This is only just a segment, but I'd love to
Yeah.
hear some of you that are watching us right now. How have you solved for some of the concerns about it being effective or not? So one is it's driven top down. So they're using it more as a strategic thing, and it's not a bilateral or, something that is actually done with the team level, or if some of the managers are doing at an individual level. I like the
Yeah.
team level because I'm all about the collective, and we know most people are about the teaming. That it's crafted by them, again, wanting to own and wanting to be a part of, okay, we know your company mission, we know what we're trying to do as a business, here's what we think is how we're going to contribute to it, right? It's all about their love and their heart into it when they create these goals. Great, awesome, right? Now here's another thing, having some conversation about the data driven about it, and I thought it was fascinating. We have data for this, data for that, data for this, data for that, metric attached to these OKRs. And I'm absorbing this, and then I have to ask a question. I'm like, well, what do you do about the people side of it? And it was almost like a pause, like didn't know how to answer my question.
What?
And it wasn't that they didn't understand, it's because
HR
they
is
didn't have an
saying that.
answer, because it wasn't thought
Exactly.
that way. It
Yeah,
wasn't thought that
exactly.
way of saying, okay, when we write our OKRs, how are we actually thinking about contributing as a whole, or is it more of a mechanical thing? Again, this is the problem. When we detach the people side of things, this is where you won't get the full benefit, I don't believe, from these things. This is why
Yeah.
I think on every process out there, right, it is so important to think about the people about these process. OKRs is another process out there. And it's always, everyone's so attracted to processes because we can detach ourselves as people and say, it's a thing. It's a thing we got to do. It's a thing. But we know, and this is what I love about 2021 is, I'm going to call bullshit. I think I love that
Yeah.
word these days. Bullshit.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't work without the people part.
No. And I mean, I absolutely love that, because how many times do we have this conversation? Oh, people are the greatest asset and the greatest resource, and da 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 and da da da. Guess what? When it comes to actually talking to people, developing people, really asking people what they think, asking them to contribute, having them sit down at the table and really help them share some of the stuff and help them change the status quo, because maybe they're taking you on a better journey, we leave that part. That comes last. Like when it comes to business priorities, people come last. And it's that's where the disconnect is, and that's where millennials specifically who are in leadership positions are wondering, do I really want this kind of leadership position? Because I'm not interested in that. So
It doesn't align with sometimes their personal core
it's
values. I love
exactly.
all of you. This is going to be a nugget. If you haven't gone through this exercise, okay, I'm going to derail just for a hot second. You
But thanks
should.
for the kudos, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. So all of you, if you haven't gone through this exercise, is really understanding what your personal core values are. And a
Yeah.
lot of people might rattle off a couple, but then I always say, if you have 6 months to live, what are the activities you would do before you die? Then when you write those activities, what kind of values do they align to, right? And you start to kind of, do some affinity mapping, grouping, and you start whittling it down, and you're like, whoa, these are the things I really care about. And what I've noticed is when you start to shine light of what those things that you care about, and say you're wanting to climb the ladder as a company, you're wanting this or that, those are the ones that you are internally conflicted with. And so this is where, when we talk about motivation and goal setting, it's also understanding how does it align to the values of the company, the values of your team, right? Yeah. And that's where I think you had conversations looping it back when it comes to leaders and how to actually create motivating goal setting is that they think about hiring people that have very aligned values, because you can have a conflict right there. If you have a team of people and you don't have aligned values, one for the company and also for you as a manager, right? Yeah. That becomes a huge conflict when you're trying to build a team.
And that's the fear of...
It's like any relationship in general, right?
Absolutely. And you know what? When you have, especially for small business owners, that's the number one fear. Like, okay, I'm going to have to scale my team. What do I have to do and how do I do it right? Because I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to hire people. I don't know how to interview them. And how do I make sure that they're going to be a good fit for my company and a good fit for me, and how they're going to mesh together? And so this is another thing that these new leaders are really keen on, interviewing based on values. How do I get that in an interview? How do I talk to people? How do I build rapport with them from the interview stage, so that I actually understand whether or not we'd be a good fit, whether or not they really care about what I care about. So again, they want to have, first of all of these new kind of leaders, they know their values. They're very aware of their mission and the vision, and what they really care about is align people to that. And I think in doing that, it's never top down. They want to make sure that they have the right people who can contribute to the mission, to the vision, to really fulfilling those values together. And I think that's wonderful, and I think that's the way forward. And this is why you and I are so keen about talking about all of these things, because these things are happening. There are leaders doing this right now. And what is going to happen is you will see top talent moving towards them.
Oh yeah, they might even jump departments because they see one leader doing whatever.
Exactly.
And here's a newsflash. You don't have to wait until your entire organization from policies to start doing something with the people that you directly manage. When we talk about talent management, it's not an HR thing. And we're going to probably have a topic, I don't know if it's next week or not. I can't remember.
I'm noting it down.
I can't remember what it is that we're going to start talking about talent management for leaders, very specifically about retaining, hiring, and developing them. And it is part of goal setting, getting back to this subject, is for you to be thinking about is, how do I hire people based on values? Am I even putting that in my hiring process? And, there's actually a way that you can use particular language that will draw certain people, that you can eliminate the ones applying for a job. Did you know that? We probably will have a show on that. Now, the goal setting, imagine if you've already been able to have alignment. That's one thing that I love. So we're talking about strategy and aligning that way, but we're also saying, you might have some prerequisites that you need to start with. Have you aligned on values? Have you aligned on the mission in general and the vision of the company, of your team, right? You do it at all different levels. And so this is what I said. You can start doing this. If you're a manager of people, regardless of where you are in the process, you have the ability to change the paradigm. You have the ability to shape culture, because your system is a culture within itself, right?
Yeah.
So goal setting even though it might not, we love to start from the top and have it relate to the company. That is the best place to start. It doesn't stop those of you that want to move in this
Yeah.
direction, because the more that you move in this direction in a
Yeah.
company, it's going to influence others to follow. Do you want to
Exactly.
be a leader that changes the game, or do you just want to be the follower, the laggers? So which one do you want to be? And I'll tell you right now, those of you that are in these situations and seeing what's actually happening in the evolution of workplaces, if you start working in this manner, I bet you're going to have a lot of opportunities to run businesses in the upcoming years, because they're going to need leaders like you.
To run businesses, to run successful teams, to see yourself promoted and your team promoted, to really feel like you matter. Because at the end of the day, come on, I think, and anyone who doesn't want to matter, just put it in the chat. But I don't think that those of you watching this don't want to feel like they matter, regardless of your role and how big or small your organization is. It doesn't really
We all
it
want to be
doesn't really make
relevant.
a difference. We want to be relevant. We want to have an impact, and we want to see that ripple effect of what it is that we do and how that impacts others as well in our business or in our organization. So when you lead people in teams, one of the best things that can happen to you as that leader of the team is to actually see your people be happy and feel fulfilled and take initiative and contribute and feel that they matter and really feel successful. That is what makes you successful and makes you feel successful as a leader. So that's why motivating towards that goal setting and helping them contribute to that goal setting, that's what's going to just accelerate your success individually and as a team.
That you can be engaged but not motivated.
Absolutely.
And so the difference between that is, when I'm both motivated and engaged, you know you have the best out of me.
Yeah.
And we know, as you see in the top corner there, that we know that we can measure impact. And that's what Roxana and I do. So when we talk about OKRs, we can look at it in a couple ways. One is, how are we aligning on how we're contributing in the focus of writing them? Because we could have blind spots, for example, or our energies are really kind of unbalanced. And then when we actually have our OKRs, we could start thinking if there's an imbalanced energy on being able to drive to achieve them as a team. And when you start working across horizontal alignment and maybe vertical alignment, you can actually look at the collective energy of all the people that you're working with. Because when you are working at every level in OKRs, you start working horizontally, and it joins all, breaks down those silos. But if you have somebody, and maybe you're in a matrix organization, or I think that's probably the most difficult situation. I've had some conversations with people that have OKRs and they're a matrix organization. How do you understand the collective energy in a matrix environment if you're not the leader that could probably bring that in to find out, right? You're not going to say, hey, can I measure your impact energy just so that I can understand where you're focusing, right? So it was funny when I had this conversation of who can actually drive some of these things when we talk about aligning people with the game changer index, the GC index.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to actually have this really cool interactive webinar. Might as well bring it up now, because this is our first game changing work, really, when we're starting to move to a project together, where Roxana and I are creating a highly interactive session of what does it actually feel like to understand our individual alignment, our impact energy, and our collective energy in the concept of OKRs. We're going to start with that, since this is the show today. And we're going to have this in August 5th. And we will have the link registering for it. I call the pre-register. And I think the first 30 people that we actually get to register are going to be able to be a part of this simulation. And what does this simulation look like? you are actually going to be part of that, taking the survey, finding out what your collective energy is or individual energy. And then we're going to take that subset group of people to find out what their collective energy. And we're going to run it through scenarios of the what if. What if we're writing OKRs for this? What if we have these OKRs, and what could actually be the impact to our ability to achieve it? Because what I found is the disconnect of people. I'm going to go back to that. What are we doing when we're flailing to achieve our OKRs when it comes to aligning people, right? If you're not meeting them or you're challenged with them, how do we deal with them today? Could it be that there might be where our collective energy and how we're contributing is a direct correlation to that, right? Are we actually aligning the right people to get us what I need? So think of if you're in marketing, and you have marketing OKRs, and you have different groups that are dealing with marketing. Marketing is divided up in many different ways. Well, you are right now trying to change the game on how you're approaching marketing to attract a whole different market now. Maybe you're trying to go into the whole remote and hybrid, or what I call the reimagined employee experience, right? So that is one of the things where you kind of might need a game changer in there. Well, what happens if the collective energy of that group is lacking one? Or OKRs as a team, and you have a low impact energy as a collective, as playmakers, which are the people that actually wanting everyone to work together as a team. So collectively, you have a low energy in that. And you wonder why everyone's working and working as solo artists. So OKRs is great about bringing people and departments together. But how are we addressing the people challenges in that process? Because remember, OKRs is a process. So how are we attaching the people part to it?
That's what will be super interesting in this webinar, because we're actually going to talk about how you make your best impact, what your energy is all about, how you best contribute, and also in connection with the other participants. So that's going to be anonymous, obviously anonymous. We're going to look at anonymous profiles, but we're going to look at connecting the profiles and going through scenarios that relate to whatever potential business goals may be in those situations, and how that team might perform or maybe underperform. Because that's, going back to the initial question of how do I manage my lazy teammate or my lazy team member, it might not be about that. It might be that they're not making their best impact in the current role that they're in, or they don't feel motivated to make their best impact. Maybe they have maybe they're a game changer that feels absolutely unheard and unseen. Or maybe they're a good strategist that nobody asks about trends or prioritizing or plans or strategies, right? So there can be so many. And this is why we want to do this for the first 30 people who register for this webinar, so that you actually get to experience what this can do for you and how easy it is to help you make the people decisions that you need to make when you have this kind of tool.
Yeah, and I'm trying to show here. Let me see if I got that right. Did you see my screen share? Okay, so this is real quick on the fly. So when we're in this webinar, this could be you anonymously. You will have no idea which one you are, but we're going to start running scenarios in relation to OKRs. How is each one of you going to contribute and think about that activity? That's one. How are each one of you going to think about how you contribute to achieve and get to action on those OKRs? So this is where I'm challenging is, what do we do with the people part about this process? Remember, OKRs is a goal setting framework, and it's a process. So here, as I start to show, I know this is me trying to quickly give a visual. How about this is your collective energy? and remember, I was talking about some goals that are really needing to change the game and differentiate in the market. So say they have something there. Now, if you were writing the OKRs, or maybe somebody else is facilitating, maybe you have an OKR champion or whatever, and you knew this was the collective energy of the team, you probably would want a game changer to come and participate to help them write this. Because what could probably happening? This is a business, because they're really great at getting things done when it comes to business as usual activities. They probably have a really good reputation. They do it with great quality, they get things done, and they know how to actually take a strategic vision and implement it. That's not their problem. But now they're challenged to do something different in the market, something unique, something that actually is going to change the game. And like, again, you can use marketing, you can use a lot of things that you're trying to do. Their OKRs are probably going to look a lot different than somebody that probably might have a higher collective impact as game changers. So they might not be moving the needle and changing something. They're probably good at just doing something and improving on. See where I'm getting at? Now, so if I am facilitating the OKR writing, we might want to get someone in that has more of a game changer energy to counterbalance this. So these are the kind of things, and that's my little sweet little nugget there, that we're going to talk about with the group of people so you can experience live what this starts to look like and dive into the people side. So when we're talking about decisions on how we can realign teams or work with teams to help them, both in the writing activity, both on helping them achieve their goals that they set, or when teams are in trouble, we could really understand that there could be a direct correlation based on how they're actually focusing their energy to contribute and make an impact as a team in relation to those OKRs. So that is one of the things that in this webinar, hopefully you guys are interested in participating. Again, it'll be anonymous, but it's kind of fun. It's based on your information. So
it's based on your information, and then you can also here's what we're gonna do, because it's gonna be live and it's gonna be interactive, so you can come and bring your own scenarios and ask your own questions related to what you see, and then we can discuss depending on what you need to do or what you would want to do in your organization or maybe with your team. So come join us live, because that's how you get the best experience. This is not your regular webinar where we promise this is not going to be boring. We don't believe in boring, because that's when people don't learn anything.
I would rather have people that are actually trying to start doing OKRs or doing OKRs today, or they have a curiosity about them, to come to the table with their what ifs.
Exactly.
And so we're going to start simulating, and so you can start seeing where you can actually make better people decisions, or better team building opportunities if you're a manager, right? So if you're a manager of teams and you're doing goal setting, this is the whole point of this, how to lead remote teams. You can actually see where the imbalance is. And here's what I love. It removes unconscious bias, which is something that Roxana and myself, we always put that in the forefront. It's not personal. We remove the personality and the labeling and all of that kind of stuff. It's about the impact that you make, and we can have conversations that don't feel like we're insulting. And what do we know by a lot of certain generations? They don't like conflict.
Who?
So those of you that would rather have a situation where that you don't feel like you have to do conflict management, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, well, you have to do conflict management, but anyway, this will help you understand where potential conflict might come from, and it will also help you understand how to address it before it becomes a conflict. So that's easier, right? It doesn't have to be a conflict. It can just be a disagreement.
And here's the funny thing. These are two game changers that come up with ideas all the time. We made this up this week. We made this webinar up this week because we said, oh, we're doing the show. Why don't we have the webinar that actually takes it further where they can actually experience this? So
Yes.
there you go, folks. This is the moment for you to experience what we're talking about versus just watching it on a show.
Exactly.
So come join us.
Bringing it over to you.
Come join us.
Exactly.
We're gonna keep talking about promoting it through the course of the weeks.
Yeah.
So those of you that might not always get the chance to understand what we're talking about, this won't be the first time we bring up this slide there. So again,
yeah. So next week,
up the topic. Let's wrap up the topic, or we're going to talk about next week. Oh,
because it's connected.
How to retain top talent in a highly competitive market. Woo! So we talked about HR and talent management isn't the only place you should be concerned. So what we're doing is promoting is saying, hey, we want to help you leaders and line managers when it comes to talent management, because there are your people you're managing.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like HR leads the people and you lead. Who do you lead then? So
you're the one
that gets about it.
You're the one that gets SOL when they go out the door.
Exactly. So we'll talk about this next week, and it is connected to what we are also going to talk about in the webinar, right? Because it's all about people and how they make their best impact and what you can do to have that aligned with business strategic goals. So, but for those of you who want to request topics that we need to discuss on the show, you can either comment here or DM me or Veronica. We're here for you. This is why we do the show, to help you change the game at work and work differently, live differently, and lead differently. So that's what we want to do. We're here for you. So send us your topics or your questions. And if you have any questions related to the upcoming webinar, absolutely feel free to reach out, and we're happy to give you more details.
And again, it's always about the people side. And
absolutely.
It's all on you. All of you can help shape your culture and change the game. So this is where we're saying, come join us as we talk about talent management for leaders, the savvy servant leadership, culture shaping, and really talking about teaming and what does that really look like when it comes to all these processes that are out there today. So we'll see you guys next week. I'm looking forward to next week. I'm actually kind of excited where we're going. We're trying to be a little bit more specific on our show. So I hope you guys enjoy.
Provide us feedback. Thank you for your comments, and thank you for joining, and thank you for your feedback. That's awesome.
And let us know how we can provide more value to you, those of you that are watching us. And again, all our replays are available on our YouTube channel, Game Changing Work channel. Now we do live, which we have a lot of people that usually follow on my LinkedIn profile. But if you ever want to look at the collection, I think we are on, 85 episodes now? We're almost at our 100th episode. So we have a huge collection, and we are organizing, just before we close this up, I'll mention, we're organizing the playlist based on these categories that we think that are really helping when it comes to the choice at work workplace and helping these leaders that are trying to shape that. And be the leader, as Roxana liked to say, the different kind of leader.
The different kind of leader, yes.
Okay. I'll see you guys.
Awesome.
All right.
See you
next week. Bye-bye now.